The island's 20th murder victim for the year. He died in a brazen shooting in Sheraton Mall this afternoon. Our Lisa Boom joins us live now with this shocking story. Good evening, Lisa.
Good evening. Thank you. And yes, I guess you can say that it was shocking. That's the best way to describe the events at Sheraton Mall this afternoon. The lunchtime crowd was in the food court going about their business as usual when chaos erupted. And believed to be the one who fired the shots that took 33-year-old Damien Trotman's life, running away from the scene. That stunning video captured by our cameraman Chris Wood, who had just managed to get back to his feet after the man knocked him down in the rush to escape. But just moments earlier, this, gunshots ringing out, cutting Trotman down as he walked through the mall. Those shots forced our reporter Rianne Phillips and others to dive for cover as she realized what was happening and tried to get out of harm's way. Our news team was there along with others from the media to cover an event with the National Disabilities Unit. One of the reporters who didn't want to be on camera recounted the events.
We were covering the assignment, so we decided to do an interview prior to the assignment. And then we just heard a loud noise as we were wrapping up, and most of us just ducked because we didn't know what it was. Probably thought it was a transformer or something that blew out. But I literally, when I heard the second shot, I looked around and I just saw the guy, he like flew against the wall, everything in his hand kind of dropped. And then when he slumped down, he had like the receipt in his hand, and I just saw his hand just loosen like that. And I said, oh my goodness, he's been shot. So all I could do then was just dive into the place that was next to me and just hit the floor. And then I was like just checking myself to make sure I wasn't shot because the noise was so loud, your ears was actually ringing.
Police teams quickly cordoned off the area and started their investigations, shutting down the mall, combing the area for clues and questioning potential witnesses. PRO Acting Inspector Rodney Innes confirmed that the shooting happened in the area of KFC around 10 minutes to 2.
The victim was reportedly standing just outside KFC entrance when a number of gunshots were heard, causing the crowd to scamper. Moments later, the victim was seen laying lifeless on the floor. Ambulance service were contacted, and paramedics and EMTs confirmed that there were no signs of life.
Well, the news was more than members of Trotman's close-knit family could bear, several of them converging on the scene and breaking down. Trotman's cousin, Fiona Pilgrim, said she rushed to the scene from work.
Before his mom died, his mom told me make sure to take care of him. And it's only the other day that he get a fine put on him, and I was right there, and it's only today was going to call his sister and tell his sister, ask how he doing, because right now his sister is pregnant and she can't come, and I can't tell you how devastating she is.
Well, Lisa, there you have it. And as you just saw and know from covering these events, families take these situations really hard. A counselor was there checking on one of her relatives who was in the mall at the time, and thankfully she stopped in to assist the family. Now, I spoke with her briefly, and she told me that this type of support is important to help the family members to understand and work through their grief at this time. And Acting Inspector Innes also told us that the police have been getting lots of requests for their counselling services, and they've been providing that to families free of cost. Back to you, Lisa.
Simply unbelievable. Thank you so much, Lisa. And the escalating crime problem and murder toll have prompted the Barbados Hotel and Tourism Association to call for government to do whatever needs to be done to arrest the situation. The Chief Executive Officer, Senator Rudy Grant, says that serious crime and beach harassment remain a cause for concern for hoteliers. Senator Grant says that the BHTA has been playing a part in the crime fight.
In January, we would have provided some sponsorship to the Royal Barbados Police Force by way of CCTV cameras to be placed on the West Coast. And this, of course, is a further commitment to the police, given our previous support for CCTV cameras on the South Coast and elsewhere. We continue to collaborate with the police. There's been specific collaboration undertaken in the areas of St. Lawrence Gap and Dover. Our members have reported increased police presence in the St. Lawrence Gap, Dover area.
And Senator Grant wants the necessary amendments made to the relevant legislation which will allow police officers to wear beach uniforms supplied by the association. Well, the opposition leader Bishop Joseph Atherley has come out swinging at government over its decision to increase bus fares at this time. In his response to the budget, Bishop Joseph Atherley told the lower house that bus fare was a necessity for most people in this country.
You cannot compare the change in costs of a Coke to the change in the costs for public transport travel. Are we paving the way, I must ask, for a higher fare for our investor or investors in the revenue sharing electric buses project? Are we paving the way for a higher fare because we anticipate that we will have to satisfy the investment interests of those who seek to enter into revenue sharing arrangements vis-a-vis the employment of electric buses?
Bishop Atherley also questioned whether government was attempting to save the transportation sector or the state-owned entity, the Transport Board.
We need to have a sector. It is one of the baseline sectors in any economy such as ours because it caters to movement of persons for various reasons. So we need to have that sector vibrant, alive, and fully functional to the extent that our capacity allows. And we need to have the service available to commuters. Not all are so privileged as to own their own means of transport.
The opposition leader says that government must engage the organizations representing the public service vehicle operators to ensure that Barbadians don't have to wait hours before they get transportation to get to their destinations.
There is a vibrant, despite the undesirable characteristics that attach to the privately operated public sector transport service, of which we are all aware and which has been admitted by the sector itself. Despite the undesirable practices, they provide a significant contribution to movement of people in Barbados. And you hear figures between the level of 75 and 80 and 90 and 95% carrying capacity and contribution of the PSVs in their fullest context.
Well, on another issue, Bishop Atherley says government needs to come clean on whether it has plans to introduce casino gambling in Barbados. He says the taxes being placed on the gaming and betting sector makes it seem that the government is moving in that direction.
Now, we can't sneak it in by not mentioning its name. You cannot sneak it in by not mentioning its name. Noticeably, Mr. Deputy Speaker, this move is said to be intended for tourists and intended to target foreign exchange. Government expects to benefit from this activity by means of a 20% withholding tax on gambling winnings and a 17.5% gambling tax on the net drop of all gaming establishments.
Well, there have been mixed reviews from public service vehicle operators regarding government's announcement yesterday of a 75% hike in bus fares for commuters. Operators say the sector has longed for this, especially with the many challenges they would have been encountering with rising operating costs. Public Relations Officer of the AOPT, the Alliance of Owners of Public Transport, Mark Haynes, says PSV operators have been crying out for this rise in fares for years. He says that this is very much appreciated.
Sector welcomes the increase. We were aware of this for quite a while. We put this before government some months ago, and we are happy that government has acceded to our request to grant an increase, for which we are grateful. The Prime Minister, her judgment, thought that having studied the figures that we put before her, that the sector merited an increase, so she's granted it, and the sector welcomes it. So surely this has been good news for us, and we are grateful for such an increase.
And CBC News also spoke with Maurice Lee, the chairman of APTO, the Association of Public Transport Operators. He was quite reserved in his comments, saying only that this fare increase would help government reach its objective. Well, the rise in bus fares was the biggest talking point coming out of Prime Minister Mia Motley's marathon budget speech yesterday, as Barbadians have been sharing their views on it. While there were both positive and negative comments, the move to $3.50 dominated the discussion.
Things are really tough in Barbados, and some people can't afford, some people just can't afford even $2 when the day comes to catch a bus. And the things that you go stand up something 2 hours and 3 hours to get a bus, to get a bus. So it's really ridiculous to me.
I thought it was a very fair budget. I think it's workable. And when you look at the income tax that's being given back, I think the middle class especially have been asking for a major relief so they can put more money into spending in town, into spending here at Sheraton, into spending all over in Barbados. So I think that that would help a lot.
You're looking at probably over $70 a week in bus fares alone, you know what I mean? And it's going to hurt them, right? But, you know, give and take, you know, you want to build the economy up, you know what I mean? So it means some things would rise, but I think the bus fare is really a little too steep.
As a traveling man, I still think that we have the cheapest bus fare probably in any part of this region, and certainly when you consider that you pay like $275 US in the United States of America, whilst that may get you a transfer, there's still $5.50 our money. So for us that living here in Barbados, we got to be cognizant of certain facts, and we got to, before we complain, we still have to analyze what the Prime Minister is really trying to achieve.
Special envoy to the Prime Minister, Professor Avinash Prasad, says a lot of focus was placed on growth and transformation in the budget present. He says that Prime Minister Motley outlined growth strategies for the short, medium and long term. Professor Prasad was among the panelists for CBC TV 8 budget reply discussion.
The short term is that people are getting their arrears in cash back this year. They're getting their income tax refunds of previous years. This year they got their refunds due for the current year. But for all the previous years, the last government stopped paying refunds since around 2012. So those refunds and VAT refunds and corporation income tax refunds, a big chunk is going to hit people's pockets this year, over $40 million, and that's going to help to provide a big boost to the economy.
And the Barbados Economic Society says that growth is needed for Barbados at this time. President Simon Natram doesn't want Barbadians to solely focus on the taxes, but the medium and long-term strategies touted in that budget.
There are some really nice things in there about technology and productivity, and especially this idea of investing in our people through education and through healthcare, because those are some of the biggest generators of return over the long run. Of course, we would love to see more specific policies in that long run, dealing with that long run, and I hope we get there soon.
And this news now coming to hand. Police have 2 suspects in custody in relation to the shooting death earlier today at Sheraton Centre. Lawmen say the 2 individuals are assisting with their investigations and will bring you more information as it comes to hand.
What's Trending is brought to you by Trident Insurance. We treat you like family.
And we say hello again now to Lisa, who is now in our social media corner to tell us what is trending.
Good evening again, Lisa. Thanks and welcome again to What's Trending. Now, as you heard earlier, Barbados was rocked by the news of more gun violence, which resulted in another man being killed. And it all happened in a spot where many people go to shop and simply enjoy themselves, Sheraton Mall. Now, social media has weighed in on this recent development. Rondine Clark is wondering what Barbados is coming to. Belogin Maria wants to take the drastic step to not send her kids to school or anywhere for that matter. I suppose that's for their safety. Well, Susan Ned thinks the island is in a state of emergency with all of the violence that's happening here. In Alfina Prince's opinion, the problem of violence needs to be dealt with quickly. Cheryl Smith says the situation is utter nonsense, especially considering the location where the incident happened. Well, yesterday, Prime Minister Mia Amor Motley announced an increase in bus fares. So instead of $2, Bajans will now be paying $3.50. Well, this Facebook user, Glenn Burke, says the Transport Board doesn't need any more buses. He suggests instead that the routes with PSVs should be subsidized. He says it's a good opportunity for the board to downsize, as there are many workers who have signed up for separation packages. In other social media news now, it's World Down Syndrome Day, and wearing colorful and mismatched socks on the day is meant to celebrate people with Down syndrome and raise awareness. Well, various schools and organizations around the island took part in the initiative. So what about you? Did you rock your socks? And U.S. President Donald Trump is known for his Twitter feuds with various well-known people. These include Oprah Winfrey, Whoopi Goldberg, well, just about anybody. And recently, he's been taken to Twitter to bash someone else, the late Senator John McCain, who died of brain cancer last year. Well, President Trump didn't stop with Twitter. He continued his tirade during a recent rally. Take a look.
I endorsed him at his request, and I gave him the kind of funeral that he wanted, which as president I had to approve. I don't care about this. I didn't get thank you. That's okay. We sent him on the way, but I wasn't a fan of John McCain. So now what we could say is, now we're all set. I don't think I have to answer that question, but the press keeps, what do you think of McCain? What do you think? Not my kind of guy.
Well, recently we've been talking about exorcisms here in Barbados, but take a listen to this strange story that's gone viral in Trinidad and Tobago. It's one family talking about being terrorized by a buck, and a buck is what we call in Barbados a baku. Let's listen.
Govinda Mathura says he and his family are being terrorized by what he can only describe as a supernatural creature.
He's a short man, fat, he have big afro hair, with a fat face, and he dark. And when he walking, he doesn't walk on his foot, he walking on his toes.
Mathura tells CNC3 his pastor believes his family's life is being disrupted by a buck. The family says they've been given scriptures to read and are hoping for the best.
Well, that's all the time we have for What's Trending this evening. Of course, remember, you can find us easily on Facebook, Instagram, and by email as well. Now, Lisa, I noticed, I'm going to throw you under the bus slightly, neither of us is wearing our colorful socks after we said we would.
So we have to make up for it.
Maybe they should get something to jog your memory.
I see you have jokes, Lisa. Anyways, I'm not going to touch that. Thank you so much. News on the international scene now. An Indian-administered Kashmir is once again under curfew. The death of a school teacher in a police station has caused some outrage there. His brother says that he was tortured and then murdered.
The roads are clear, and in the pouring rain, there's barely anyone around. Another curfew in Indian-administered Kashmir imposed by the authorities. Security forces are manning checkpoints, making it difficult to get around. The reason? Public anger over the death of schoolteacher Rizwan Asad while in police custody in the town of Awantipura near the state capital, Srinagar. At his home, family and friends had been gathering since Sunday, waiting for news of him. His brother says Rizwan was tortured and murdered in a police station.
There were torture marks everywhere on his body. His left eye was hit. It was completely black. It was completely black here on the whole eye. He was having the blood, we don't know whether it was blood or some injuries were on his head. He was having stitches, 2 stitches here at this point. He was having some injury mark here. His spine was broken.
Police say the 28-year-old teacher was picked up by security forces at the weekend as part of an ongoing terror investigation. His death led to protests and has been condemned by politicians. A police investigation is underway. One former chief minister tweeted, "I had hoped custodial deaths were a thing of our dark past. This is an unacceptable development and must be investigated in a transparent, time-bound manner. Exemplary punishment must be handed out to the killers of this young man." Rizwan lived here in Awantipura. He'd previously been arrested and questioned by the authorities on grounds of security, but released without charge.
He was a really kind guy, a humble guy. Indeed, he was a very good teacher. You know, he had a dream of teaching the students. He had the passion of, I can say, bowing the good seeds so that they can develop into very good students.
People living here say they're often harassed. The authorities released Rizwan's body on Tuesday night. His family say they were told to hold the funeral under cover of darkness. Still, hundreds came to pay their respects.